Hello my loves, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Callie. I am a lifestyle vlogger from Orlando, Florida, and most of what I do is finding ways to make my life feel like art, romanticizing my life. That is what I do. In today's vlog, we are going to be doing a little bit of a chattier vlog. A lot of people really liked my villain era vlog, so I decided to do something sort of along the same lines. Today we are talking about things I would tell my younger self. I've been wanting to do this exercise just for myself for so long, and I figured why not make it into a video and see if we can start a conversation in the comments about things we would tell our younger self. I'm starting this vlog a bit later today because I have a lot to talk about. I wrote a list of 10 things, but honestly, each individual thing I could truly make a whole video about. I'm gonna try to keep it as short as I can. I feel like I'm gonna have a lot to say, but I don't want this vlog to get too long, so I didn't want to film too much of the day. Today's just been staying home, editing, getting ready for the day, and I'm going to start volunteering somewhere, which I am very excited about. So I've just been doing stuff like that all day. Now it's around lunchtime, and we'll get a glass of wine and we'll sit and chat about things I would tell my younger self. This is my cozy little setup for our chat today. All right, I think we are ready to begin. I'm gonna eat my lunch. Need to get some sustenance first. So I thought about this question, things I would tell my younger self, and I basically did kind of a visualization process to figure out what I would tell myself when I was a kid. When I say younger self, I feel like I'm talking about me from the ages of from when I can remember as a child to like age 12. I feel like I would tell teenager me something different, so that would be a different video. If anyone's interested in that, comment below, I'll make that one too. This is gonna be about me talking to child me, I guess. So I just kind of sat and meditated on it a little bit and just thought of myself at each age from when I could remember, and just kind of tried to think about the one thing I would tell myself at each age. I will say this is gonna be a little bit of a more raw video because this topic is such a raw topic. I'm being very vulnerable in sharing some of these things, hence the wine. Cheers. So the first thing I wrote down was be illogical. I heard a quote once that really explains this well. Illogical is believing something is even when it's not, so it can be. I don't remember who said that quote. Basically what it means is believing you can do something even if it's never been done before, because someone had to paint a picture first. Someone had to milk a cow for us to realize we could drink milk. Someone had to walk on the moon first. Everything at one point hadn't been done before. So being illogical and doing things even when they don't make sense to anyone else. Moving here to Florida was illogical. I just followed a dream. I still don't have a job here yet. I'm working on it, but it was very illogical. I still feel with all my heart and soul that it was the right decision to make. I feel so good about where I am here, and I had to risk everything to make that decision. And I had to really believe that I could do it, even though it made no sense, and even though I had no plan. It was totally illogical. But here I am in an apartment in Florida. So these are things I would say to my younger self. Be illogical, and that it's okay to be illogical. I think most of all, just for most of these, teaching my younger self that it's okay to be these things, because I feel like most of us just want reassurance. I feel like most of us kind of know what we want to some extent and know what we want to do to some extent, but we're just waiting for someone to tell us it's okay to do. And you don't have to wait for someone to tell you it's okay to do that, because be illogical, be the first one to do it. That's amazing if you're the first one to do it. I would also tell my younger self to embrace the unknown. Younger me, when I was probably like 5 or 6 maybe, I struggled a lot with a very existential mind. I wondered about things a lot and wondered about the afterlife a lot. And I came from an extremely religious household. I myself am not religious. I would consider myself spiritual now. And this is not to say that there is anything wrong with religion. This is just coming from my own experience. I was kind of told that those questions and thoughts weren't okay, that I couldn't think about other possibilities other than the one that I was being raised in. Like that was the answer, that was the afterlife, that was how things were. And so all the thoughts I was having about different possibilities and what comes next in the universe and what's out there and God and me and who I was and all these crazy questions I was having at a very young age. It was weird for me to have those thoughts at that young of an age, but I guess you could call me an old soul. I felt like I was being told not to think those things. I wish someone would have come to me and said, hey, it's okay to think those things. There can be so many possibilities out there. It's okay to let your mind think about these things. We'll get more into that later with some of these other things I have written down, but I felt like being in that religion, I had to have all the answers because this had to be the answer. And I wish someone would have told me it's okay to not have the answers, and that can be an exciting part of life. I love that I don't have all the answers. I love that I don't know what comes after death, because for me that makes life more fulfilling and more rewarding because I have no idea what's coming next, and it's exciting. I also struggled a lot with intrusive thoughts and mental illness as a child, so that has a lot to do with it too. But a lot of my fear and my anxiety and depression came from the unknown and came from a lot of people telling me that I had so much to fear. I guess I'd tell younger me, you don't have to be scared of the unknown. And embracing it has taught me so much. It's like the ocean, you know, it's so full of mystery, it's so full of unknown. And I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. I could go on and on about every single one of these things. The third thing I would tell myself is you are unique, and that is wonderful. Your way doesn't have to look like everybody else's way. Everyone does things differently. And I used to think that I had to do what the next influencer was doing, or what the next person in my career field at the time was doing, and what the newest technology was, and what the newest app was. Like, I had to fit in. And that's definitely my survival brain, because we all have that survival brain that's like you have to fit in to survive, but we don't have to fit in to survive anymore. It's beautiful that we all do things differently. If you haven't looked into human design, you definitely should, because it talks about how we're all unique and we all work a little bit differently. I'm a generator, so what I need is to be in my highest vibration and do what makes me happy, and by doing that, that will help others feel happy and that will bring others joy. My energy is very infectious, and pursuing what makes me happy is basically how I feed the world according to my human design. Everyone has something special and unique about them, and we all do things differently, which is what's so beautiful. But I tend to get very caught up in what everyone else is doing, and if I see someone else doing something differently, I think I'm doing something wrong. Present day me would tell younger me, you can do that differently. You don't have to look at what everyone else around you is doing. You can do your own thing. It's wonderful to be unique. It's awesome if you can influence those around you in a positive way. I used to feel selfish if I took the spotlight or if I was doing something that no one else was doing. I didn't want to take up too much space. But it's okay to take up space. Take up space. I guess that's another thing I would tell my younger self too, is take up space. I am working on that. Even like lifting my arms is hard for me. Like, I always do this. This is one of my favorite ones. I would tell myself, how do I word this? I would tell myself to find ways to feel alive. But I guess if you're talking to your younger self, you would have to dumb that down a bit. I guess I would just tell myself to really enjoy and relish life and experience life in every way you can and really make the most of living. Yeah, that's what I tell my younger self, actually. I want to do so much in my life, and I think that that is how, for me, I get out of states of depression. I'm gonna talk about mental illness because that's just the reality of life, and that's just what a lot of people struggle with, and that was a big, huge part of my childhood was mental illness. I just feel things so intensely. If I feel sad, I feel it very intensely. But for me, if I feel joy, I also feel that very intensely. I just experience a lot of high highs and low lows. To get out of the low lows, I just find ways to be high on life. I go to Disney World, I go take myself out on dates, I go to the beach, I be near the ocean, I like to be in nature. I feed myself delicious food. When I was really young, what mental illness looked like for me a lot of the time was feeling like nothing was real and feeling like I lived in a simulation, which I still feel like that all the time. Especially when I'm going through a more depressive episode, I feel very not real. I feel like a lot of the time I can't tell the difference between my dreams and my reality just because nothing has ever felt truly real to me. And what helps me a lot with this feeling is finding ways to be in life and be an active participant in my life. Because my first response when I feel like that is to curl up in a ball and sit at home and watch TV and just ignore my own reality. That's my first instinct on how to cope, which is very unhealthy and not what you should do. So now what I try to do is find ways to get myself out of that by just being in life. I have a whole Pinterest board on ways to get out of it just to help myself when I need to. And every month I make a vision board on things I'm gonna do that month to really live my life. A lot of the times as a kid, I felt very alone and I felt very stuck because of the whole I feel fake and nothing feels real feeling. I felt like no one around me felt real. And I got put on a lot of antidepressants because of that. And I wish that there had been other approaches, because now the way that I deal with it is by going out and being with people in busy places and just feeling a part of the energy that connects us all. I think that that's kind of hard when you're a kid though, because you don't always have control over what your parents can do and what they can take you to do and all of that, but I guess it just would have been good advice to hear and to keep in mind as I was growing up. This topic actually really feeds well into the next topic, which is nothing is black and white. There's never just one answer. When I was put on antidepressants, I thought that was the only answer. And I thought that that was just how it was and I was broken and that was the only thing to fix me. And now I use other coping mechanisms. I also meditate, I journal, I find emotional outlets that help me. I create, I organize, I create art online through social media, through my Instagram. And with a lot of things in my life as a kid, I was kind of told that it was just this one way and there was no other way to look at the world. I have such an open mind now and I love that. And I want to be always growing and learning and knowing new things. And I feel like just being told that there was one way to look at life, really, that's just such a sad way to look at life. There's so many perspectives and so many things to learn in this life. Now I know that there are so many ways to look at life and nothing is black and white and there never is just one answer to any question. I think as a kid I wanted to believe that, but that wasn't what I was taught and that wasn't how I grew up. Present day me would tell her, there's so much to learn and keep your mind open. You're gonna learn so much from this world and from being alive. And just get excited and love that, because that's beautiful. This next one is so fun. So I would also tell my younger self to embrace her inner goddess. Again, I feel like you have to like dumb these down if you're actually talking to your younger self. Basically, I would just want her to know that it's okay to embrace her divine feminine. I feel like some people call it their alter ego, the part of you that's very fiery. It's a beautiful part of who I am. I am embracing that now and learning how to embrace it, but it's really hard. I was definitely told to tame my fire very young, and I have such a beautiful fire within me, and I feel like I'm just tapping into it, and I'm just gonna get better and better at being who I really am and being comfortable with who I really am and letting myself shine and not being afraid of what others think about the light that I'm putting out into the world. This one, you always have a choice. There was a point in my religious upbringing where I was to be baptized, and they tell you you have a choice if you're going to be baptized or not, but you're only 8 years old. Before I start with the story, I want people to know I'm not trying to offend anyone with the story. This is just my experience. Again, I'm just being honest and authentic and speaking from my experience. I feel like when you're 8, that's really young. They basically ask you if you want to be part of this church, and they ask you to make promises and commitments to this church and ask if you're ready for it and if you fully believe in it. People don't act like you're gonna say no though. People just don't expect you to say no. And I had family come and travel across the states to get to this baptism for me. There wasn't any way that I could have said no, I felt like. In my mind, I thought like it wasn't even an option. I didn't even consider it. Do you know? Do you believe? And as hard as I tried to do soul searching, I just knew that if I said no, I would be a big disappointment. And I wish someone would have said, listen, if you say no, everybody is gonna love you just the same. But I don't think everybody would have loved me just the same if that happened. But still, I think it's important for kids to know that they always have a choice, and I wish I'd felt like I had a choice. Even at that time, even though I didn't feel like I had one, I still had one, even though I didn't know I had one. Me now would tell her, you have a choice. It doesn't matter what people say, it doesn't matter what people think, it doesn't matter if people flew across the country to be here. You're making a serious commitment. It's okay to question it, and it's okay to say no. But I didn't say no, so now I try to remember that I always have a choice. No matter how bleak a situation looks, I still have a choice in how I react to a situation, no matter what's going on. my choice, and what I can control is how I react. And I feel like you always have a choice in who you are too. I truly fully believe you can change your character anytime. I feel like I've grown and evolved so much as a person. I feel like I'm a completely different person from who I was even just a year ago. Even just 6 months ago. I'm always evolving and changing. I do have a choice. I don't have to do something I don't want to do. And I don't have to be someone I don't want to be, and I can be whoever I want to be. I can transform my identity anytime. It's okay to change and evolve and grow. Caterpillars are supposed to be butterflies, you know? Do you think that caterpillars go around looking at the butterflies and they're like, man, you shouldn't have done that. Look at you, you're so different now. I can't believe you. They wouldn't do that because caterpillars are supposed to be butterflies. We're all supposed to change and evolve and go through our own metamorphoses. And I feel like there's lots of metamorphoses. What's the plural of metamorphosis? I don't know, but lots of those throughout life. So this one is, I guess, sort of a repeat, but I feel like it's still important. New perspectives are necessary for growth. I guess I don't know how exactly I'd done that down for a kid. I guess I'd just tell her to make friends from different walks of life, but I think I did do that as a kid. Then there were also times in my life that I wasn't very good at that, and where I had a very closed circle, and everyone in my circle had the same views on everything. So there's been times in my childhood where I was good at it and times when I wasn't. So I wish I would have known as a younger person that it's good to have friends who have different beliefs, and it's good to be open to new perspectives. And I feel like I have so many friends that are so different from me and have so many different beliefs, and I have a lot of friends that are like-minded too. And that's great too, to have similarities, but I think it's important to speak with people on a regular basis that don't believe the same way as you, and just see other perspectives and see the perspectives of people who grew up differently. I think as people too, we need communities, and that's something I've realized as someone who's moved to a new place and knows no one. I've started to build my community, and it's been wonderful. I could have just sat here when I got here and not went out and met anyone, and I could have just kept to myself and stayed alone, but I knew it was going to be good for me to make friends. It was hard. I definitely forced myself to do it because meeting new people, it's just hard, you know? It's almost like dating. You're just seeing if you're gonna mesh, seeing if you're gonna vibe, and it's been a very important part of my journey. The other thing I wanted to bring up was don't be afraid of your mind. I was told to be afraid of my mind because I had some pretty scary thoughts as a kid. I'm not gonna lie. I was very existential, as I mentioned earlier. I feel like I've already touched on this quite a bit, but I just would get very in my head. I would have a lot of intrusive thoughts. I would just be scared of them because of the way my parents would react to them and the way that therapists would react to them. I think in reality, I was just a curious, introspective child. I actually read a beautiful book that helped me a lot with this. It was called The Untethered Soul. I don't remember the author, but I'll link it in the description if anyone wants to know. It was a beautiful book that really helped me be okay with thinking thoughts and learning that you are not your thoughts, because you are a person who has thoughts, but if you have a nasty or negative thought, that doesn't mean that you're a nasty or a negative person. And I'm still working on this, but now I'll just sit and kind of be with my thoughts for a moment and let them come and just more observe them than react to them, and let myself be introspective and let myself think. We can learn so much from just sitting and being with our thoughts, and that's why journaling is so important to me too. This next one I couldn't figure out how to word, but I think I've got it now. What I would say is to love yourself like a best friend. I think you should love yourself first, not necessarily most, I guess, but I don't think you should love anyone more than you love yourself, if that makes sense. You can only love someone else as much as you love yourself, because you're only going to be able to give them your love in a healthy, beautiful way if you love yourself first. It's good to give yourself the things that you need and want in this life, and it's good to help yourself grow and love yourself. It's okay to love yourself. It's good to love yourself. I think that for a long time I thought loving myself was selfish, when in reality sometimes I feel like it's more selfish if you're trying to be the victim or the martyr. I've just learned that loving myself is truly what life is about a lot of the time. I mean, that's not everything in life, but I think that's one of our greatest challenges as humans in life, is learning how to love ourselves. Because the only person who's gonna be with you 24/7 for the rest of your life is gonna be you. So you better make that person your best friend, or you're gonna have a miserable life, you know what I mean? You're with them all the time. So learning how to love them is like pretty much the greatest thing you can do for yourself. I do a lot of things to love myself on a regular basis, taking myself out on dates, going to a museum, just doing fun things. I mean, that really goes into experiencing life and really living life. I also do a lot of self-care, like face masks, and I do my makeup, and I feel like that's all loving myself. That's more of a physical, I guess, way to love yourself, but my emotional needs, I journal, I meditate, all the things that I've talked about so far, I feel are forms of self-care to some extent. So just loving yourself first and loving yourself like a best friend. A lot of that is setting boundaries too, which I talk about a lot in my villain era video. I feel like that video really just goes into loving yourself and setting boundaries. So I'm gonna link it down below if you're interested. It's all about how to enter your villain era. That's everything that's on my list. That was such a good chat. That honestly was so fulfilling to do that, just to like write all that down, talk about it with you, and it lights me up. I just feel like I did a whole therapy, meditative, spiritual practice on camera with you guys. I truly do. I feel so uplifted and whole from doing that. I would very highly encourage you to do that. And please comment below what you would tell yourself as a kid, because I would love to read the comments and see what you all have to say. I have a fun plan tonight that I'm gonna take you along with me for. We're not going out anywhere, sadly. I wanted to today, and that was what this vlog was gonna be, would be going out somewhere, but there's still a lot of flooding from the hurricane. I live in Orlando, by the way. But what we are doing is watching the new Hocus Pocus 2 movie tonight. I'm just gonna light so many candles, and I'm gonna make Halloween cookies. Oh, hi! You wanna be in the video? This is my cat, Hex. I've had so much fun doing little fall nights and getting everything pumpkin flavored. I just love any type of holiday or thing that's going on. I feel like that's a big part of living life too, is really enjoying everything and enjoying every part of life. Say hi. Say hi. She wants attention so much lately. Starting with Hocus Pocus, the first one, and then I'm gonna watch the second one with cookies, and I'm just eating some green onion pancakes with cream cheese. Yum. Hocus Pocus marathon with cookies and oat milk. Hello, hello. It has been a while. I am just on FaceTime with my boyfriend and just finished Hocus Pocus 2. I loved it. It was so good. And that's about all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you got something valuable out of it. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm really glad I thought to do this type of video. Please comment below what you would tell your younger self at this point in your life. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!